speaking of speech, I brought suit this week in Arizona for the librarian who was, been a librarian for more than a decade, done great work at his local library, no problems of any kind. All he cared about was getting people books that they wanted and were interested in. He was part of a private listserv of librarians that decided that some of the people on that listserv decided to weaponize it for politicized purposes during the George Floyd BLM protest. And so they started saying every librarian needs to re-examine what they're doing in the librarian. It was like a little mini CRT lecture for librarians. And he responded and he said two things. One, he said, let's not use the listserv for politics. And secondly, he articulated, because here's what my politics would be, and I would disagree with yours. Do we want a long extended debate on this? And he goes, here's the counterpoints to what you put out, but let's just drop politics, period. They then reported him to the local library where he worked in the city of Flagstaff. And that library then turned around and fired him because he had opposed on what his private speech on a private email group, which is what a listserv is for those people who don't know. And so we brought suit on First Amendment grounds and other grounds this week, hoping to reestablish that First Amendment speech matters and that it protects everybody, and that the government can't go around firing people because they don't like their speech outside of the governmental capacity.
First question I have, not knowing anything about the case. The library, is it municipal? Is it private? Is it a school? What kind of library?
Municipal. It's owned by the government, city of Flagstaff.
Okay.
Subdivision of the state of Arizona.
So what defenses are the library, or what defense of the staff or whoever fired is going to have? They're going to have, I don't want to ask stupid questions. Are they going to have any form of immunity because they're government officials carrying out government functions?
Not. They're going to have to argue that he has no First Amendment rights and that they could fire him for his speech. Because as far as I know, at least when he went through the process, they didn't really give him due process either. But the only grounds was this grounds. They didn't have any other grounds. So maybe they'll try to manufacture things. Sometimes they try to do that after the fact. But I think that ship has sailed on them as well. So this happened during the summer of 2020, late July of 2020. And so I don't think they have a vibrant defense. The only question is, does the First Amendment apply and protect people or not? Or is BLM speech somehow magically outside of that? So it should protect them. I don't see any reason why it shouldn't protect them.
And now you it's not like there might be some correspondence that you're not privy to or that you're not aware of that could have justified the decision. They have to file a report that says why they did this on the basis of what? Clean record for his 10 years past employment?
Oh, yeah. Completely clean record, no problems, no issues. And they even said that their excuse is, and this is fascinating, so this might be their only defense, but this is not a constitutionally cognizable defense. Their defense is your speech makes us look bad at the local library. If you're not on the BLM page, then our library looks bad in the local community, so we can fire you for that reason.
But the speech was private among whom? Library employees?
A library association of librarians. So the fact that somebody out there was offended, and basically they're saying, if you don't have the speech that we tell you to have, we can fire you because we think that makes us look bad with our local patrons. No, that's not a legal excuse to fire people, folks.
Well, they're basically they might be pulling the YouTube demonetization, whereas if you do something we don't like on another platform, we can demonetize you on this one because it's a community, and we don't want people reflecting poorly on this community by doing embarrassing or controversial things on other platforms.
Well, speaking of platforms getting sued, the class action was brought against Facebook this week in Florida for censorship of COVID-19 related speech. And the class action, it still could have been a little more specific, but it was more specific than Trump's. And it said basically that the President of the United States, the Vice President of the United States, and the CDC had ordered Facebook to remove any post. And what they did is what we talked about last week. They cited heavily what I think they could have cited more what Biden also said, but they cited Biden's statements and the press secretary's statements saying, look, they're saying that they are telling Facebook what post to remove. These group of people have had their post removed that fit that category. So we're saying this was actually done as a state actor, at least in this context of these statements related to this speech during this time period. So it's more specific than the Trump suit, which is good. It could probably benefit from being a little bit more specific, in my view, but it comes much closer to making the specific allegation that Facebook did this at the direction of the government.
No, and you have to, I mean, they have the benefit of these actions having occurred presumably before they filed, so they can incorporate facts that didn't exist when Trump filed. But the question I was going to ask was, yeah, if this survives a motion to dismiss stage because you have sufficient specificity of the allegations, my impression, Robert, you'll tell me if I'm ahead of the curve on this one or just imagining, is that what Jen Psaki, I like Psaki better than Psaki because it sounds bad. When Jen said what she said, my impression is that there's going to be much more active, if not direct backtrack collusion between the government and Facebook than what anyone's thinking right now. So they need to get there and discover this. In the United States, you have something called a litigation hold, right? So they tell Facebook, don't delete emails, don't change anything because all of this might be relevant to the litigation.
Yes, that usually goes out very early on. And that's one part. The other part is, and then Facebook has its own internal policies and procedures about how it keeps documents and information. And then certain government documents will always be in the government's possession in case Facebook gets rid of it. The government has limitations. The reason why Hillary had her server outside of government servers is so she could be delete when it came time to do so. Much harder to do so on government servers. And so the complaint could have still been more robust by being more specific. And that may still be a limitation on the claim, but it's at least further along the path, and it shows what this is unleashing. What we predicted last week was those statements are going to lead to more lawsuits. They already have. This is a big class action brought for everybody that fits that category, and how much they can keep weaseling and wiggling out of this, given the kind of statements they made, it's going to be harder and harder for courts to pretend there isn't the degree of collusion when the president of the United States is threatening them of accusing them of murder if they don't go along with his instructions.
Yeah, it's getting better and better. All you need is one to get through to discovery stage, and then you'll see, look, maybe there is nothing. Maybe the evidence comes out and it's just, Jen Psaki sending an email saying, hey guys, can you take that post down? And they do it. I'll concede that's not the government coercion that I'm envisioning that could bring Facebook to be a state actor. But if it happens to be back channel stuff, like we're just going to do it for you, we've noticed it, we flag it, we remove it because we have that back channel. Well, lo and behold, big problems for Facebook. So we'll see where it goes. And I think it explains why Zuckerberg is coming out now and being much more proactive in separating the government from Facebook, even if to me it looks like controlled opposition, but it would explain certain conduct now. Class action. I mean, so the class is easy. It's going to be a defined class of those who think they have had posts censored in a certain time frame. Problems we know.
Our own Cleopatra might be part of that class potentially.
I don't know what Cleopatra's posted on Facebook. I don't follow her on Facebook, but yeah, she's what district?
She had posts censored, contesting the institutional narrative. And speaking of which, two suits that I'll be only addressing at locals because of YouTube censorship. The one is the lawsuit that was just filed by the Frontline Doctors Group challenging the emergency use authorization for the COVID-19 vaccines for anybody under the age of 18 or who already has COVID. I'll be breaking down that whole suit in a video tomorrow at vivabarneslaw.locals.com because that topic is unkosher here at YouTube. And then the Arizona audit. I'll be getting into details about the Arizona audit. There was a Senate hearing that took evidence from the people that conducted the Arizona audit, and YouTube removed the video of a public Senate hearing of testimony. That's where we've gotten to the point where public hearings that the public has a right to know about, YouTube is now allowing them to see it. I will be discussing the Arizona audit and maybe some interesting things about Sharpie Gate at vivabarneslaw.locals.com, as well as whether or not some of that Frontline Doctor suit gets into issues about the accuracy or inaccuracy of certain data that's coming out right now related to the vaccine. All of that will only be discussed there to stay free from the YouTube censors.